Listen to podcasts of Joe Walsh and Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Good morning, Dan and Sean from Elmwood Park in for Amy J this morning. And the latest on the damage inflicted on the Panhandle and into the Carolinas by Hurricane Michael. So severe was the storm, 155-mile-an-hour winds, it almost blew David Muir away.
It's going to go. It's going to go. Everybody's back. We are in our same location, and I've got to tell you, a significant scare for the families who are inside this hotel with us. As you're looking out through the window, you can see the roof of the hotel that we had been standing out there. That was the shelter for a Category 4 hurricane. That has now come down on those SUVs that I was just telling you about earlier.
All right. So let's get some details now that it's been downgraded to a tropical storm and making its way to the Carolinas. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Eben Brown, who's a Fox News radio national correspondent. Eben, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
What can you tell us about what the state of affairs is in Florida at this point?
Well, along the Panhandle, they're not good. This has been an absolutely catastrophic hurricane, one that did not give forecasters and the general public a lot of lead time to mosey in their preparations. They had to hurry up and get out of the way pretty quickly, and so we hope that enough for everybody really. As many people as possible heeded those warnings, because we do know there are some people that did not evacuate, and I'm telling you, 13 feet of storm surge water and 155-mile-an-hour winds is not something that human beings usually survive. So we'll know more on that front later today, I assume. But you're talking about really expansive devastation, the destruction of homes and buildings, destruction of the power grid. So really from Panama City down to Mexico Beach in the Florida Panhandle, you are looking at real utter devastation. In the surrounding areas, you're looking at pretty thorough devastation. And the storm is not over. The storm has moved on into Georgia. I believe it moved into Georgia still as a major hurricane into the central part of Georgia, which is really unheard of. And the storm is still, I think, now on the Georgia-South Carolina line, now downgraded to a tropical storm. It's a much less intense storm, but it's still bringing damaging winds. Tropical storm force winds can still take the roof off a house. And that's something that, as the storm moves into South Carolina and then North Carolina, the poor people who were affected by Florence are now going to get a kind of like a 1-2 punch from this storm. It's still going to dump some rain. It's going to have some powerful wind, and it's actually going to generate a storm surge on the North Carolina coast. There's a storm surge warning now for the Outer Banks.
Eben, I was watching. They had mobilized or had ready various electric companies from around the state of Florida and within the state of Florida. Do you know if they've started repairing on that, or is I understand that in Florida, in the Panhandle, the weather cleared up to where today they can actually get working on it. Do you have any estimate?
The weather is much clearer in the Panhandle today. So if it is safe for crews to those line crews to get around and start working on those power lines, they will. The only thing that holds them back is if roads are impassable. So those need to be cleared first. And before that happens, a survey needs to be taken so they know which roads are blocked. So that procedure does move as quickly as possible, but sometimes it's just not as quickly as people would like. If there's someone stuck in a home and the power is off and the air conditioning isn't running, because here in Florida in October it is still hot, the power won't come on fast enough for sure. And there are certainly priorities to make sure power is working for hospitals and nursing homes and things like that. So some people may not get their power back right away, and some people could be out for a few days or longer. That's sort of a reality of this. The line crews work as fast as they can, but if they can't reach the problem area, there's not much they can do.
Do you have a sense of what the federal state response has been, particularly when you have a storm, as you were describing, that's spread over so many states over a few days?
Well, the response is actually pretty good. You know, Florida is well versed in this and has a very good plan in terms of pre-positioning assets and people and supplies and whatnot. So, you know, we don't have to wait a week for supplies to get here. We don't have to wait a week for a line crew and power line trucks to get here from places as far away as Idaho. We've got them here already, and that's really the best thing you can do is to have everything pre-positioned so you can get to work right away and not to have people either transverse the United States to get here or then try to transverse the state. I mean, you know, we're a very hard state here in Florida to get across. It's not easy because of the shape. So no reason to keep a bunch of line crews down in South Florida near Miami when the storm went to the Panhandle. The way to prepare for that is to get them as far north as possible and leave them there where they're safe to get through the storm, and then have them come into the trouble area as soon as they can afterwards.
He is Fox News Radio national correspondent Eben Brown. Eben, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
This is the morning show. More Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Lou Dodd.